can call upon our Deputy State Chairman, Brother Michael, just to give us an update on the child safety policy of the Knights.
Brother State Chairman, Knights of Honour, District Chairman, brothers. As you will recall, at our state conference last year, we had Brother John Bruce presented the Order's child safety policy, which was developed last year. This report is just to give a bit of an update what's happened since then. The child safety policy and the three sub-policies, the grievance policy, the code of conduct, and the three sub-policies were emailed to members with the Crusader Bulletin in February of this year. So hopefully, for those members who don't receive the hard copy Crusader and don't receive the Crusader Bulletin by email, hopefully there has been an opportunity at branch level for those copies of the policy and the three sub-policies to be made available to members. Now there was some questions that came up in the first part of the year regarding the policies. First of all, I made a suggestion that it may be beneficial for members to discuss these policies as a syllabus item at a branch meeting for the benefits of members who may haven't received them by email. There some questions came in to State Council regarding the policy. First of all, was a suggestion that the State Council remove the reference to need to obtain a police check. This was discussed at State Council, and it was decided no, that all members actively engaging in order activities are required to obtain both a working with children check and a national police check. And once they're obtained, to receive a copy, the copy is to be forwarded to KSC head office. Now, as we know, the policy applies to all order members and family members, friends and volunteers who may be helping with us with our order activities. Now, as presented last year, State Council acknowledged that not all order members engage in order activities, so not all order members would need to get the working with children and police checks. That would pretty much apply to, as we know, a large number of our members are elderly and are not involved in active work anymore, so we're not requiring that elderly members who don't do active work at parish level or order activity level, they wouldn't need to get a working with children check or a police check. But we do expect members who are actively engaged to, if they don't have those checks already, to work towards getting those checks. As parish requirements, for most of the parishes we're aware of, the requirements are that anyone involved in any parish activity other than pretty much attending Mass and praying, even if you're a counter, reader, Eucharistic minister, helping with working bees, there's a requirement now, well, I know at least in the Melbourne Archdiocese, that all volunteers in that situation need to have, obtain a working with children check. Now, it's not a requirement of parishes that volunteers in parishes need a police check, but so if we're involved in our parish activities, we're probably most likely that we would already have had to undergo getting a working with children check. And some other organisations, such as the St Vincent de Paul Society or the Legion of Mary or other groups which many of our members are involved with, also have the requirement to obtain a national police check. So some of our members would have both of those checks from their work in the parish or in one of those organisations. However, State Council has recognised that there be some members who may not have a police check because they're only doing work in their parish, where it's not a requirement to actually have a police check. And it's also recognised that the Knights will have to obtain a code so that members can identify their work for the Knights of the Southern Cross as a volunteer organisation when they're applying for their national police checks. This code has not yet been obtained, but we have identified that as an issue and we're working towards that. So that's still in progress at State Council. There was a question that active members whose contact with children is incidental, the website Worldwide Web Working with Children check.com.au advised that they be classified as not needing a Working with Children check. And would the KSC members still have a requirement for Working with Children checks for people whose contacts with children may be incidental? So this was discussed at State Council and it was decided it would be difficult for the KSC State Council or our Child Safety Committee to administer and rule on what situations will be incidental contact and what will not. So similarly to what happens in our parishes and St Vincent de Paul Society, Legion of Mary and other organisations, we've decided anyone involved in active work, whether it be incidental work with children or not, will need to get the Working with Children check. As also many of our members are actively involved at parish level and some of these other organisations and would have obtained a Working with Children check already. And it was felt that this requirement doesn't place an unnecessary burden on active members. But we also felt it's helpful as in order to know that our members are complying with state and church child safety requirements, and we would be concerned about members who are reluctant to undergo such checks. I know our clergy also appreciate if we're cooperative with their requirements as well. If we're asked to get a Working with Children check or a police check to be able to do parish work, we're making the job of our parish priest a little bit easier if we're going along with what their requirement, because the ultimate responsibility for parish work goes to the parish priest. And just another update, State Council has set up a Child Safety Committee and we do have a Child Safety Officer. There hasn't been a requirement for that committee to meet as yet because there hasn't been any reports with regarding child safety, although due to some recent circumstances we do note that there will have to be some changes to the membership of that committee because one of the members at least is not able to continue in that role. That's the update I have at this point, unless there are any questions.
Just a question. My understanding would be that you have a children's check, you have to have
Is that not true?
No, that's not true. You can have a Working with Children check without a police check yet. Yeah. They're two separate.
And you mentioned the priest have to have Working with Children's checks.
I think the Father Tony Perrin, our chaplain, is here. He may be able to answer. Father, is the requirement for a priest any different? Is there than for what a normal police check? Is there a greater requirement from the Archdiocese on priests?
For priests, yeah. Certainly, priests have to have a police check every time they move from one appointment to another. So, whenever a priest is transferred, they need a police check. They also have to have a employee working with children.
And welcome, my father.
So it is. I know in my parish, they're going through the process now of checking that all the volunteers have got Working with Children checks and they're all up to date.
Yeah, my only concern was that it's an extra thing for us to get. Like we all have Working with Children checks, but some of us probably don't have police checks.
Well, that has been, as I mentioned that has been discussed at the state council level, but
It is a cost as well.
yeah, there is. That's why we just talked about the volunteer code, because if you have a volunteer code, people say, well, I'm doing voluntary work for the Knights of Southern Cross, so the cost of getting a police check for voluntary work is a lot less than, say, for example, if you were part of you're a bus driver or something and you were required to have a police check for your employment. So it is, the police check is subsidised for if you're doing voluntary and it's not relating to your employment. I believe school teachers have a different requirement. You know, I think
Everybody Institute of Teaching, their registration.
If you just announce your names prior to talking, please.
Paul Camille from Desmond Branch. Well, looks like everything we do need a police check. So in other words, just a clarification on our article. The Knights of the Southern Cross, or the Grand Church Service, or the Knights of the Southern Cross, they run a lot of sausage sizzle. Do we need a police check? Now, kids come up with the group to get sausage. And do we go?
our requirement is that for members involved in active work, that they will need both a working with children check and a national police check. That is what we've decided at the State Council as our organisation requirement. Now, other groups who may go to Bunnings may just require, I don't know what their requirements are, but the Catholic Church requires us, for any work we're doing in our parish, we'll need at least a minimum of a working with children check. And the Knights of Southern Cross, like organisations such as St Vincent de Paul, have said that we would like our members involved in active work to have a police check as well. But
So
now,
Paul, sorry Paul, your question was, if you're just
Do we
doing...
need a police check to run a sausage sizzle in the line of Europe?
If all you're doing is the sausage sizzle, you're not doing any work in the parish, you don't, working with children would be sufficient. As the Knights, we're saying that we would like to go, cover both areas and also have working with children as well as police check. Right? But it's not necessary.
Hang on, through you, Brother Chairman. I believe technically, if you were just to do a bone and sausage sizzle, you wouldn't need any one of those.
No.
Technically, if you're just doing, no, but we're asking that all active order members have those checks.
Dave?
Well, just in regards to 100% of those guys on the bench, we set a module that was set out for 5 boys and that was a 6 to 8 opposite module in regards to volunteers, adults,
so that's a requirement because you're doing work with the bus with the. Is that an adults group? The blind people?
No, the other one that Brian Gordon ran and Steve Bond was an addition with the Senator's guys. And it was for vulnerable adults and children. But that was nothing to do with my person.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that was an extra little bit.
As State Council, we recognise that we've put this requirement on members and we, of course, here to help members to meet this requirement. So any questions you have, probably refer to myself or the State Chairman or a member of the State Council and we'll assist in whatever way we can in getting members to get working with children checks or police checks.
Could we have a show of hands on first of all, who has their working with children status, which is the majority, and how about police checks? We're talking about
Police check through vendors.
yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's free. Yeah.
And the other one is, which ones are still in progress?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's okay. If they're in progress, we accept that you've applied.
Yeah. One other comment about police checks. Depends what organisation. I know St Vincent and Paul Maker they want to run the police check themselves. So, but with some other organisations I'm involved with, they let you transfer. So I got a police check through the Legion of Mary, and then I was able to get that link to my parish. I can get that link to the Knights. I've told the St Vincent de Paul Society I already have that check as well. So it's not like you have to go and do multiple times for every organisation you're involved with.
They want to register that you have it at the parish level and at the organisation level.
For example, when I became involved with the soup van a couple of years ago, the St Vincent de Paul soup van, I had to ring up a government number, and I talked to the lady there, and I said, I already have, here's my name, I'm registered for St Kevin's Parish and the Legion of Mary. I'd like to add St Vincent de Paul Society to that. And she just tapped away for about a minute, and she goes, yep, that's all done. So the point of that is so that if I did something wrong, the St Vincent de Paul Society, the parish and the Legion of Mary would all be notified. So.
I assume that if you've had a check in the neighbourhood watch, you just go through from there.
Yes, I believe that would be the case. It'd be like you being a member of St Vinny's. The only thing is that with working with children, they expire every 5 years, and the one for police checks expire every 3 years. Okay, so they do expire, so they need to be renewed when they expire.
You actually get the application to renew it per month and then.
Yeah.
Name and branch, please.
Bill Lanigan.
The one in Hawaii. I just started a volunteer at our parish, and I asked me to do the police check as I was working with children. And I didn't start because there's a school on the side.
Thank you, brothers. Good to see you tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Michael.